I grew up in a part of the country that didn't have much diversity, mostly Caucasian and African Americans. A lot of the African Americans don't even know what's part of Africa their ancestry is from, and wasn't something that I learned until much later after I had left. And that's just to give context around how people grow up, you know. And so with that dichotomy, I felt a lot of times I was in the minority, and I was in the minority, not just in my skin color, but how I felt as a human being. And so on the soccer pitch, on the football pitch, that played out by not having coaches that looked like me. You know, I never had a black coach. And it's hard to relate sometimes. It's hard to relate. And I see oftentimes, I've seen it play out in the professional ranks, but I've seen it play out at the youth ranks as well, that players are moved on from teams, specifically black players or BIPOC players are moved on from teams because they are seen to have an attitude issue, or the coach just doesn't know how to get to that player, how to relate to them. So that's something that we want to change now, is having increased representation among the BIPOC community in coaching positions at the youth level, at the executive level as well. And for me, that was always tough, because even when I'm playing, if I don't have a coach to relate to, then maybe I'm looking towards my peers, and it was few and far between in terms of peers as well. Maybe there was 2 or 3 of us on a team at a time. And it's just different than a lot of places in the world where this sport is accessible to the masses. And that's not the way it is here in North America. So players of color are often left to feel uncomfortable. You know, there's not very inclusive here in terms of the environment, but also in terms of the representation.
I mean, are we saying amongst the African American community there was a kind of creeping acceptance, the very fact that they didn't know their ancestry, they just kind of accepted the status quo as it was? Is that what we're saying here?
Yeah, it's different in every part of the country. You know, you mentioned it at the very beginning, our country is massive. And so there are a lot of places where first generation, second generation immigrants are coming, and they bring football with them. You know, it's a part of them. It's a part of their life. And obviously, they understand where they come from a lot more than someone like me, who's probably maybe 5th generation since my greatest relatives came to this country. And all of that culture and ancestry gets lost along the way. And so for me, I grow up as if I'm anybody else, you know, accepting of other cultures, which is great, which is a good way to grow up. But if you don't bring any of that own, then there's always a sense of unknown, always a sense of mystery and not knowing exactly who you are. And so you place that on top of being an organized sport and not knowing. It's a little stressful for our youth.
Do you have to overcome family perceptions as well, that your loved ones immediately around you who fear it's a profession in which you can't progress, who fear that there is blockage along the way and are almost discouraging of you to go down that route for fear of disappointment?
I think it's changing now. I think the generation below myself has a much better view of the sport, what it can accomplish, what it can become, what it is today. When I was growing up, for example, my father was a wrestler, so he didn't know anything about the sport, but I came from a very loving family who wanted me to, you know, be happy and do what I wanted to do. And so he didn't have much to teach me in the way of football, but he was always there at my matches, always there encouraging me. And that was very important for my success, as it would be for any kid.